her a moment.
I think she's just logging in now.
Okay, great. Recording in progress. Okay, I would like to call the meeting to order. Welcome everyone to the Thursday, May 25th school committee meeting. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by committee members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count toward quorum. The meeting will be broadcast live and recorded on ECAT. This meeting is open to the public. We will take comments via the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. Please make sure to include your full name and address. We will do our best to read all comments and answer questions. However, we will not read questions that have already been answered. Okay, so first item on the agenda, we have 2 sets of meeting minutes. So regular session minutes from Thursday, May 11th, 2023. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the regular session minutes? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the regular session meeting minutes from Thursday, May 11th?
So moved, DeLuca.
And a second?
Second, Wiseman.
And roll call vote?
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Great. Okay, and then the executive session minutes from May 11th. I actually have some questions on this that I'd like to discuss at a next executive session. So can I get a motion to review these at our next executive session?
Wiseman, so moved.
Second, DeLuca.
And roll call vote?
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, so next item on the agenda is the approval of the Marathon Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine contract. Dr. Cabral?
Thank you. We've had fantastic luck with the athletic training that has been provided by Marathon Sports, and our athletic trainer is fantastic. I have David Twombly here this evening, Director of Operations, to explain the extension of the contract that we're looking for your support on this evening, and he can answer any questions that you have. You're muted. Sorry.
Not used to doing this from the office. So anyways, no, Alicia was absolutely correct. Marathon Physical Therapy has been one of our vendors for a very long time. They provide excellent service to our student athletes. Always get good feedback from the athletic director, or the coaches. So again, they'll be providing athletic training services for our student athletes. We follow the 30B procurement laws. We advertise the bid in the Brockton Enterprise, the Combis website, and also on the Goods and Services Bulletin. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I think, we like this vendor, so it kind of worked to our advantage. We only received one bid, which is Marathon Physical Therapy. In the contract, the first year, the charge would be $43,000 for the 2023-24 school year. The second year will be $45,000 per year. And the third year will be $47,000 per year. That's it. So if anybody has any questions.
David, do you know what that represents in terms of an increase from the current contract?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's right around, I think we pay right around $40,000. I was actually talking to Andrea before I came in here, so I think it's around $40,000. Based on the invoices that we receive. But it's a great deal. I mean, they put in a lot of hours. I was actually talking to Mary Flavin, the trainers are there all the time, working with the students. So it's really good.
Yep. And in the hourly rate, and I see it on the page, and I just did the math. So the 43,000 for year one divided by 1,200 is, so those rates we see on the contract are the work out to the hourly rate. So, and I think those rates are pretty reasonable for somebody in this profession and the services that they're providing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put it over and above the number of hours. They really do a good job. So I don't want to say this too loud, but yeah, we're getting a good deal.
Okay.
So.
All right. Do any committee members have any comments or questions? Okay. So can I get a motion then to approve the Marathon Physical Therapy contract for, let's see, from July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2026?
Wiseman, so moved.
And a second?
DeLuca, second.
And roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes?
Loomis, yes.
Great. All right. Thank you. And next up is the approval of the Green Acres landscaping contract for the RO playground. Dr. Cabral?
Thanks. Before David talks about the actual contract, I'd just like to give you a brief update of this process. As you are aware, of course, at the town meeting, we had put forward a proposal for a plan that had gone out to bid and had actually been received from Green Acres. And at town meeting, the funding was approved, which we're super grateful for. However, it was approved with an amendment. And of course, the amendment stated that there were to be no rubber materials that contained any PFAS. So the original plan had PFAS in the material. The current RO playground has a structure in it, two structures in it that have the same poured in place material right now that was going to be replaced, and just a small amount more was going to be added. The reason we had gone with the material that had the PFAS in it is because we felt very confident in the fact that it is encapsulated and that it is not on a water table, and that we have no evidence that there is any seepage from that of the areas that we have with it right now. But also because it has a HIC or a head impact or head injury score that is one that we feel is safest for children. It only is 9% of the surface of the playground, but it is under the most elevated and arguably highest requested items in the playground. For example, swing sets and climbers. So it's very important that if a child were to fall from the height of a swing or a climber, that they have more cushion as the surface. So we are still bringing the contract before you tonight, not because we're looking to go against the amendment, of course. We are still investigating where the 9% that is in that playground, what it can be covered with. But I just want to put a caution there that I believe there was a perception, excuse me, at town meeting that the playground was going to move forward as is with just a different surface in that area, but that the design was going to be exactly the same. That may not be the case. We met with the designers, and if we aren't able to find a surface that has the level of impact resilience that this does, that we aren't comfortable with having the children play on, we would need to come up with another plan for that area. Whether that is removing the swing sets and the climbers from the design and putting something else there with the asphalt surface, or some sort of grass, we're really not sure. However, we have gone through the process to make sure that we still can go forward with the contract as it is, because the concern, of course, would be, is this a change order to this current proposal that we have, or would it require us to go out to bid again? But we have been assured that you would need to be up to about a 20% change in cost in order for it to be a change order. And so, for it to be required for a new bid, and they do not anticipate that this will be that it will be 20% more than the poured in surface. If anything, if we just put grass there, for example, and we don't buy those structures, it would actually be less expensive. So I just want to quantify that for people so that they understand that it's not going to be, as far as the surface in that 9% of the play area, it's definitely not going to be the same as was in the plans, but we're going forward with the project not knowing exactly what's going to be there yet, because there's a lot of site work and drainage and surveying that needs to happen. And we will certainly have that figured out by the time we get to a point where they're going to put surfacing down. And we don't want to, not only do we not want to delay this, but we don't want to lose the bid that we have. It's with the contractor who's currently doing the project here at Blanche Ames. We feel as though they gave us a very fair price because it's cost effective for them. Their materials and their people are already here, their equipment. And so we feel as though it would not be cost efficient if we didn't do that. We also don't want to scrap the project entirely. So I just wanted to make it clear that people may see that it's different and it may be which ultimately means it could mean that it's missing some elements. We just wanted to say that up front so that people did not feel misled in any way. So we are still investigating that. We haven't yet found a substitute that's appropriate, but we had already done this research, which is why we chose the other surface, and which is why we may have to eliminate that area altogether. Does that make sense? Okay. Just wanted to make sure we updated people on where that was and why we were going to go forward with the project, even though there's a small area that still is under design. Okay.
So actually, Alicia did a fantastic job on that explanation, much better than I would have done. So I
definitely didn't want to steal anybody's thunder, David.
Well, you kind of took some of my bullet points away.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay,
No,
I thought you were
no,
just discussing the contract.
No, that was perfect. You did a
You can
great
tell
job
we
on that.
didn't rehearse here.
No, you were perfect. But I'll just give some of the numbers that were involved with this. So first off, the landscape architect and Perkins Eastman both said that we got an excellent bid on this, and we should definitely move forward with the project. As Alicia had mentioned, there's still a lot more to this project than just the surface. There's the drainage and the equipment and all the loom and everything that has to get moved. So there's a lot more to this project than just that surfacing that we're talking about. But the cost for the project from Green Acres, their bid was $1,607,000. We did get 4 other bids, and the closest bid to that was $500,000 more than what Green Acres gave us. That's why this bid is so favorable to us, and that's why we're kind of pushing to go forward with this. Even if we had to do a change order, it would never be $500,000 more. In fact, it's probably going to be more of you're going from one surface to the other. It's pretty much it's going to be kind of cost neutral, other than whatever the markup that the construction company gives us. But it should be pretty close. The work includes, as Alicia had mentioned, the playground equipment, outdoor furnishing, paving, surfacing, plantings, and grass. Again, we follow the Chapter 30B procurement laws on all this stuff as far as putting it in the goods and services bulletin. We advertise it in the Brockton Enterprise. Green Acres, which is the contractor, they're very anxious in starting this project. They're actually anxious to get the contract signed because they'd like to start purchasing some of the materials. As you know, with everything else that's going on in the world right now, some materials may be backed up and take a little bit longer to get than it has in the past. So they're anxious to put their orders in now. They'll be starting the project as soon as school ends. And then they should be done. They estimate that they should be done by October 1st. So it might go a little bit into the next school year. But we've talked to Chris Getchell about those concerns, and he's really said he could work with it and use the other playground. He could also possibly use some of the areas now that Blanche Ames was using. Now he can use some of the areas. So I think everything will work out for us. But again, this is a great bid that we received here, and I would definitely urge the committee to move forward with this project. So entertain any questions.
Jackie?
Thank you, Dr. Cabral and David, for that explanation. So David, is this covering the whole area of the RO playground or just one section of it?
Just one section, the north playground. We'll probably go out to bid. I think it's probably the same timeline that we did with this past project. We probably design over the next few months. And in fact, I think we have a design meeting scheduled for June. We would probably go out to bid sometime in the fall. And we would probably do the next phase of the project next summer, maybe
Okay.
next spring, all depends. But we would have to work with the administration in the building as far as noise and dust.
Sure.
But, we'd probably go out to bid most likely in the fall.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none. Okay, thank you both for the detailed explanation and all the information. Always makes these decisions clearer for us. So, all right, so I will, can somebody make a motion then to approve the Green Acres landscaping contract for the RO North Playground?
Wiseman, so
DeLuca
moved.
second.
And roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot. Have a great
David.
holiday weekend. Take care.
Thanks.
You too. Thank you.
All right, so next up on the agenda is a discussion and vote on the naming space donation and wording on the plaque in honor of Mary Romans. Dr. Cabral, Mrs. Kaufman is presenting. Oh, you're on mute, Dr. Cabral.
I won't miss hearing that someday. Okay, so welcome, Ms. Kaufman. Our beloved Mary Romans is going to be honored, and to present that information to you is our current English department chair, Joanne Kaufman, who has just joined us. So I will actually kick it over to her to provide the details, and she, of course, will answer any questions that you have.
Hi again, everybody. I'm back. I'll share a screen right now. Can everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a proposal for Mary Roman's office plaque on behalf of the alumni, parents, students, staff, and the friends of our OA. We present today in the honoring the memory of Mary Romans, math department head, advisor to the Best Buddies, and former advisor of the robotics club and team. The Mary Romans naming project pledges $5,000 for the opportunity to name the math department office at all Grimes in her name. And the reason why we want this is because she served as an integral leader in the Easton Public Schools system as the math department head, especially by instituting the new computer science classes in the robotics program. In addition, Mary served as a mentor to the members of her department and to many of the OA faculty and staff who looked to her for guidance and support. Many students, faculty, and staff and members of the town of Easton like to honor the Mary's legacy of compassion and dedication to her colleagues, students, and community through a plaque outside the math office. And this is what we would like to have on the plaque. Romans Math Office in memory of Mary Kamal Romans, math teacher and department chair, for her outstanding commitment and love for the Easton community. So that's what I got.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the committee?
So the naming committee hasn't had a meeting since our new group formed. So this kind of came about because what we had before, $5,000 was basically the price for naming an office or a small classroom. And that's where I was in touch with Joanne. So I think the $5,000 is quite acceptable, and And I assume, Joanne, that plaque will be similar to the other plaques that are around the school already, correct?
Correct.
Yep, okay. So I'm in favor.
Great. Thank you, Nancy, for that additional context. That's helpful. Jackie or Lauren, any questions? No? Okay. Thank you so much for bringing this to us. I know it was, kind of communicated in bits and pieces. So I'm glad you were able to come and present and bring the whole package to us. We'll put it to a vote, but I can say, I enthusiastically support this. Ms. Romans was a very influential teacher for one of my kids. So I certainly appreciate everything that she did as a teacher and a member of the community. I think this would be a wonderful way to honor her. So, okay. So can I get a motion then to approve the naming space donation and plaque boarding in honor of Mary Romans?
DeLuca, so moved.
Okay. And second?
Wiseman, second.
And roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes?
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes?
Loomis, yes.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank you so
very
much.
You too, Joanne.
Take care.
Okay. So next up on the agenda is the vote to approve a foreign travel trip to Quebec. Dr. Cabral?
Thank you. As you can see, our friend Rebecca Michael has joined us. She's a foreign language teacher at the middle school. She's going to present her proposal for a trip to Quebec, Mademoiselle. In February 2024, she will review the details of this 8th grade trip and answer any questions.
All right, well, it's nice to be back. So I have my proposal for next year's Quebec trip ready a little bit early this year because I would like to move the trip from April, where I've traditionally done it, to February. There's some really interesting and exciting opportunities in February that we can't do April. April's actually a funny time because it's between the snow and the really warm weather. So we're a little limited in some of the things we can do. So the basics of the trip are going to be the same as I've done in the past. First 4 days of a school vacation starting on Saturday, so nobody's missing school. And we get back on Tuesday evening, giving everyone a couple days to decompress before we get back to the classroom. We travel by coach bus using the same tour company that I've used, I think, for 4 previous trips. I'm working with the same tour consultant who helped me out on the last trip. So it's been really easy to coordinate with them. Some of the highlights of this trip that I'm particularly excited about: dog sledding, snowshoeing. I was surprised to hear that was an option. And then I read the description and it was like actually dog sledding. It wasn't just like watching it. So I think that's super cool. They have at Quebec, they build an ice hotel. And while we're not going to stay at the ice hotel, we get to go visit the ice hotel. They have a snow village where we get to do snow tubing and rafting, which I'm assuming is similar, but we'll find out. I've never been snow rafting. And then we kept some of the things that we've done before on the trip. Like we go to the Huron village, which is the First Nations village, to sort of get that perspective and piece of the idea that Quebec existed before France came over and, decided that was their land. So interesting too to go and see that in the winter time. Curling lesson, which we did on the last trip, which was super fun. So a couple old activities we've done in the past, a couple new ones. I have requested the same hotel we had a few years ago called the Delta Hotel. They were unable to book us at the Delta this past April. I guess they've gotten a little difficult to book with after COVID and with larger groups. So the request is that we stay there. And if not, then the second choice is the hotel we stayed at this past time, which is perfectly acceptable for a hotel. I looked into the Frontenac, but the additional cost just didn't seem worth it. We've stayed there one other time and it was nice, but I don't think it's worth us doing that again. Similar things where we'll have a 1-to-8 ratio. So for every paying participant, we get 1 free traveler. So myself and then other staff members have already reached out, and a lot of the teachers who've gone before are interested in coming back. And then I have some new teachers who are also interested. So definitely a lot of interest there.
We know of an elementary teacher who may be interested in, is very into dog sledding and maybe volunteer.
Right. All right. Actually, it's funny. Mr. Carroll's daughter has been subbing at the middle school, and she's recently said to me, she was on the very first Quebec trip I ran, and she recently said to me, could I chaperone one of these trips one of these years? And I said, I think you're probably old enough. So we've definitely got some interest.
Full circle.
Yeah. And so then we have, I think about 40 kids are currently enrolled in 7th grade French, which will put a pool of about 40 kids who the trip is open to next year for 8th grade. It is limited to kids who are enrolled in French. So I don't anticipate more than one bus going up this year, which is fine by me. I've talked to the tour company about the potential for weather issues, because that was actually one of the things that made me a little bit nervous about February. One of the comments was that the tour consultant I've worked with has never seen a trip canceled or had any major issues in February, and they run the trips every year all through February, so it's not like they haven't done this before. Every traveler gets a basic level of travel insurance as part of the cost of the trip, and that covers trip cancellation, interruption, and delays in various ways. And I have the documentation. It's specific. There's things like it has to be the bus company that calls it that it's not safe to travel. It has to be so many consecutive hours, and there's some details about that, but I'll be sure to go over that all with parents so that they know when signing up. Things like if the trip is delayed and we end up in Canada, they will have to pay upfront for the hotel, but then they get reimbursed through the tour company when the insurance sort of comes into play. So just planning pieces like that. And then as far as if we're in Canada and it's too cold to go dog sledding, the tour company is good at like swapping activities. We even did it a little bit on this past trip. The tour guides are constantly like looking at, planning ahead, thinking about what if we do this, let's switch this with that. So they are definitely well prepared for that potentiality. So I think those were it. And then the price, I know you hopefully have the proposal in front of you. It is a little more expensive. I did get a quote for April as well for next year, and the cost is just going up across the board for student travel. The high end of it is, I believe, about $1,600 per student, and then the low end of it's about $1,200, give or take. It always depends on how many kids sign up. I have always maxed out my numbers, so I usually anticipate that we'll get that sort of lowest cost available to us. And the difference between the February trip and the April was maybe $100 per student, so it didn't seem to be a deal breaker in terms of the price of this next year's trip.
And isn't this the time of year that they have their huge winter festival?
They do. We are a week off from it,
Oh
so
no! Okay.
I know.
Too bad. Yeah.
But maybe in a future year, if this one goes well, we can, keep trying for that. And then, I suppose I'll just mention the COVID protocols I have in the proposal are same as last year. It worked really well. Everyone tested 3 days prior to departure. We made sure everyone was clear before heading out. We had plenty of COVID tests with us on the trip on the off chance anyone was symptomatic and needed to do that. I let parents know ahead of time last time that if their kid got sick, that the parents would need to come up and get them from Canada so that we wouldn't have them on the bus with us on the way back. And I even had, so we went through that whole thing last time. There were a couple questions, we had a couple hiccups, but all in all, it was fine, and we worked through everything. So I think that's everything. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions?
So Rebecca, you answered mine. I was going to say, what happens if there's a storm? So that was good. I know the kids are still talking about this year's trip, so I'm sure you'll have a good group for next year. It's great.
And Jackie, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say it sounds amazing. I wish I could go. It really sounds like a great trip. Thank you for putting this all together.
I told her one day I'm going to chaperone. Yeah.
Yes, was on one of the trips that didn't happen, and this would have been even bigger for him. So I'm sure this is going to be hugely popular and a ton of fun, dog sledding and just some really cool stuff.
Sorry, I'll just add what I typically add is thanking you very much for doing this. We need to remember that this is during the staff's vacation. Their much needed midwinter vacation where they could be spending time with their families, they could be spending time resting or in a warm climate. And to organize this kind of thing, no matter how many times you've done it, it's still a tremendous amount of work on their own time. And while you're there, you're responsible for a bunch of students in a foreign country. And that can be extremely stressful as someone who's done that kind of thing several times. And so, it is a sacrifice. And we very much appreciate you doing this for your students. And that's what you're doing it for, is you're doing extra for the kids. And we really appreciate you providing this opportunity, because without you and our other chaperones, it just would not be possible. So thank you.
Okay. All right, great. So can I get a motion to approve the foreign travel trip to Quebec?
Wiseman, so moved.
DeLuca, second.
And roll call vote?
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yeah.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Thank you guys.
Great, thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great
Have
weekend.
fun. So next item on the agenda is the vote to approve the school improvement plans for Blanche Ames Elementary and Richardson Olmsted. Dr. Cabral?
School improvement plans are presented annually from the administration of the school building. They come from the district plans and the superintendent plans. The school improvement plans then lead to the administrator plans at the individual schools, as well as every single educator's plan, which we all write annually. We have 1 year and 2 year goals. So this school improvement plan is put together collaboratively with the school council of each building, and Mr. Cedarbaum and Mr. Getchell, the principal of Blanche Ames and Richardson Olmsted, are here this evening to present the plan for next year, and again, answer any questions you may have. Gentlemen, do you have a preference of who is going first?
Doesn't matter to me.
Thank you for volunteering, Mr. Cedarbaum.
There you go.
Please feel free to begin.
Sounds good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to come before you and share our improvement plans for next year. If Mrs. Pruitt doesn't mind putting up the Blanche Ames presentation, that would be great. So while she's loading that, our school council has been working all year to look at our current improvement plan and begin working on our next improvement plan. We put a heavy focus on looking at what kind of theme we wanted to put together. Typically, the pre-K to 2 schools have all joined together to combine for one improvement plan, and we've usually centralized around a theme. So last year, our theme was moving forward together, knowing that we were coming together to Blanche Ames, uniting 3 different staffs from 3 different buildings into our one new beautiful building. Now that we are all here, we're really looking towards the future and bringing in the diversity, equity, and inclusion piece of the district plan that we're going to be putting forward as well. So we wanted to put a theme together of We All Belong. Again, we have now been in this building approximately 6 months. We are still finding our way and navigating how to successfully become one new learning community by bringing new students and staffs and families together. So we really want to increase that feeling in the building next year. So our theme moving forward next year is We All Belong, and we are promoting that and weaving that into all that we do. And you'll see that trend as we go along through our school improvement plan goals. I want to thank all of our school council members that have worked hard to put forth ideas, brainstorm our goals and our action steps. And I think we really have a great plan to present to you tonight. So Mrs. Pruitt, if you don't mind going to the next slide. Our first school goal continues along that theme of transition. So during the 23-24 school year, the staff and students of Blanche Ames will continue the work of transitioning to their new school. Through the theme of We All Belong, they will develop and strengthen the culture, climate, and community of our new school. So we have had a group of staff and faculty over the last 2 years now called the transition team that has really worked hard putting together all of the details, organization, and thoughts behind how do we bring our 3 schools into one. Now that we're all here, I'm looking to transition that transition team into more of what we call a faculty senate, which is really the same premise of bringing stakeholders together from all groups across the building that will work together to solve building issues and problems, brainstorm how we continue the work of bringing us all together as a new learning community and really making Blanche Ames the best that it can be moving forward. So that is the first action step of that goal. Moving on to the second one, we talked about continuing to provide professional development time for our pre-K to 2 staff. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Pruitt, you go back. Talking about adding more professional development time for the staff to work on building that culture and community. This year, a lot of our PD time was focused solely on the physical act of the move. We devoted a lot of time for teachers to pack and unpack and set up the classrooms that they're working in. And so this year, moving forward, we want to move back into that lens of how can we provide time for them through professional development days, staff meetings, social opportunities outside of the workday and during the workday on building that culture and community now that we are all together in the one building. Number 3 there also brings in the larger school community to really promote that we all belong mentality. So this is bringing in our families, whether it be through school council, whether it be through PAC, to bring us all together to make everybody feel welcomed in our new building. So we're looking at putting together community events through the PAC. We're looking at bringing back family engagement evenings. We are looking at doing a needs survey. So now that we're here, asking families and guardians to provide us with feedback. How has the transition been? What can we do to make school a better experience for you and your child? So those are all things that we'll be doing as part of next year. And then the last piece was really something the school council came up with, and we really love this idea. Again, we want our students, we talk a lot about mirrors and windows and being able to see ourselves in our building. Right now, we have this beautiful new building. Unfortunately, it still has a lot of white walls. So we are looking to brighten up our space and make it look more friendly, welcoming, and inviting. And to do that, we want our students and our families to see themselves in our building. So we're looking to connect with a local artist, photographer, to basically go around our building and take photographs of our student population, of our families, of the things in our building, so that we can display those around the halls. I really want our students and our staff to be able to feel represented and recognize and see themselves as they traverse through the building and through the hallways. Again, that sense of belonging is important. We want them to feel like they belong because it will produce a more productive working, learning environment. So that is the first goal, focusing all on the transition and weaving in that goal of belonging, that theme. As we move on to our second goal, again, ever since the pandemic, we are highly reflective of the social and emotional needs of our student population. So during this school year coming up, the Blanche A. Ames Elementary School will continue to address the growing social emotional needs for our students, our staff, and our families. To ensure that we all belong, our school-wide PBIS structure will be reviewed and refined. Our students will continue to receive SEL instruction through Second Step, and we will use the DESA to screen our students' social emotional needs throughout the year. So looking at those bullet points in goal 2, a lot of it was spelled out there in the goal, but we will continue using Second Step, our social emotional learning curriculum, which includes a daily morning meeting and Tier 1 instruction for all students across our building. We will continue to screen our students' social emotional needs using the DESA Mini, which is administered 3 times a year, both to our staff and to the students' families. So it really gives us a good view, both inside and outside of the classroom, of the social emotional needs that may be present. And then in number 3, we conduct data meetings 3 times a year as well, both to review our academic data, our CBM curriculum-based measure data, but in addition, we also review that DESA mini data to help identify students who might benefit from a Tier 2 or Tier 3 intervention with a member of our SEL team, whether it be an adjustment counselor, school psychologist, or BCBA. So those are reviewed 3 times a year as well. We also would like to bring back and reconvene our pre-K to 2 PBIS team. As part of the transition team, we rolled this work into that group. Now that we're here, I'd like to break that back out and reconvene a specific PBIS team, both to look at the work that we've done previously, look at the model that we implemented this year, and refine it so that we can make sure that we're hitting all of the right bullets as we move into this coming school year. We held our first whole school program this week for Memorial Day. We got all of our student population and staff into the brand new gym. It went fabulously well. The students were well behaved. They all participated, and it just showed us again as a building that this is something that we can do. And so I really would like to bring back the idea of community meetings at Blanche Ames, which is either bringing together the whole school or a grade level within the school, again, to focus on PBIS and that theme of we all belong. It gives us that monthly check-in, that pulse point to get everybody on the same page, working on the same thing, rowing in the same direction. And I'm really excited to be able to try and bring those back moving into next year. And the last piece is to provide parent education and engagement opportunities in 3 different modes. Again, we send out weekly newsletters to families. The nurse's office sends out monthly newsletters. We would like to bring back things like literacy and math nights, which we'll talk about as well in the next goal, but really making sure that we are welcoming and engaging our parents and really be a team for all of our students. And then our last goal, goal number 3, focuses on curriculum. This is going to be a really big year for us as we adopt a new reading program. So during this school year, the staff in grades pre-K to 2 will use research-based methodologies that follow the science of reading to increase student engagement and achievement as we adopt wit and wisdom in grades K to 6. So we worked really hard this year going through the pilot process and choosing our new reading program. So our goals, our action steps around this goal, that staff will receive wit and wisdom program materials as well as initial PD, which is actually happening now at the end of this year. So that will get the ball rolling. We're very excited that materials have already started coming in and gotten into the hands of teachers now, so they can start to preview and look at what's coming. We are giving initial PD over the course of this week and next week. So again, going into summer, teachers will have that foundational knowledge around the science of reading, and as well that foundational knowledge around the structure of wit and wisdom and how those two dovetail together, so that they will have an understanding of how to implement that program as we move into the fall. So number 2, they will be implementing wit and wisdom as we enter the new school year and receive further in-depth training around their grade level specific curriculums. We're very excited about number 3 in this goal. We are in our 2nd year of implementing foundations from K to 3. And this year we will actually be partnering with Wilson and bringing preschool foundations to our preschool students as well. They have just rolled out a new preschool curriculum, and they are looking to partner with us for a little bit of research. They are interested to see the impact and the efficacy of implementing foundations and how that translates over student achievement as we move into grades K through 3. So we'll be tracking our students, looking at their data as they get foundations in preschool, and then move along the spectrum through the rest of their grades to see how that initial dose of foundations at the preschool level helps their achievement as we move through. So we're very excited to be able to extend that down to our littlest learners and bring them that same level of excellent curriculum. And then the last one is to, again, bring that theme of we all belong full circle and kind of wrap it throughout the curriculum. Again, doing it through read alouds, project-based learning, cross-curricular connections, but really bringing that sense of belonging and welcoming into all that we do. So those are our 3 goals, and we're really looking forward to a great school year. Our first grand opening of a school year at Blanche Ames. Anybody have any questions? Jackie.
Thank you, Mr. Cedarbaum, for that presentation. Just a couple of questions. I was wondering if you could give just a short explanation, sorry of the background noise, of PBIS and DESA, just for people that aren't familiar with those programs.
Absolutely. So PBIS is our positive behavior systems and interventions. So this year we did a whole school model. Our theme was to show your stripes. We have students following the Cub Code. So it's all about making good choices and being positive members of the community. So students are being safe, respectful, and responsible. And again, we tie that into all that we do. So we talk about expected and unexpected behaviors. We follow the Cub Code, and then students are incentivized and rewarded for doing so. So we use the model of Cub Cash this year. So students who were caught showing their stripes earned Cub Cash. We recognize students weekly and monthly for showing their stripes, and it helps to form that positive community of the building to get everybody rowing again in that same direction. And then the DESA is the Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment, and that's something that we have been doing for several years now. It is an 8-question survey. It's done 3 times a year. The staff in the building, the classroom teachers, fill out the 8 questions on the students. We send the same 8 questions home for families to fill out, and then we combine that data and we look at, is it a student who is demonstrating strength in their social emotional needs, or is it a student who is in the typical range, or is it someone who's in need? And we use that data to decide when and how to implement tier 2 and tier 3 interventions for students who are more in that need category. It also gives us a chance to wrap around again and work with the families to provide supports at home that they can work on with their students to improve them in those areas at home as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other, Nancy?
Yes, one of the things you talked about was hiring artists, photographer to, you know, take pictures or do whatever to jazz up the school. Just curious, because I feel like Easton Public Schools from grades probably 3 to 12 have wonderful, like they do it at the high school. The art department puts those murals on the wall. Just curious if kids that were looking for community service hours would be of any help to you rather than hiring somebody. But I understand what you're saying, because you've got all these blank walls and you want to fill them up. I get that. And I
Absolutely.
like it.
Absolutely, and I'm not opposed to that. Again, I think my word is partner. I would love to find some partners, whether it be student partners or community partners. I know we have some excellent parents and guardians that are photographers in our community as well, who I'm sure would love to add a positive element to our schools. So yes, I would love to find someone to partner with, and whether that be students, community members, families, to work on that project. I think it would be great.
That would be great. Another question, grade 2, before COVID, and I don't know if it's happened since, and maybe Dr. Cabral can answer my question. The second graders did the swimming at the Y. They used to go to the Historical Society for their little history presentation. I think there were a couple things that second graders used to do. Is that still in place?
It is. So this year we did resume the WaterWise program. The students from Center School participated in the fall while they were still at Center School. And then once we merged into Blanche James and we all got settled, the second grade students who were originally from Parkview and Moreau Hall had the chance to participate in the program as well. So at this point, all second grade students have participated in the WaterWise program this school year. The historical walking tour of Easton did not happen this year. But again, as we've all come together, we're working through what field trips will happen, which ones are we going to keep, which ones are we changing. So that will be a further discussion next year amongst the second grade teachers of whether or not that's something that will stay or something that will be replaced with something else. It did not happen this year, but we will have that discussion for next year.
Now, were those the only 2 things that the second graders used to have? It seemed to me like they were doing everything. So
it varied school to school. Some second grades went to the zoo. Some second grades did Save the Bay. So again, we're bringing all of those differences together and figuring out what will be the common similarity moving forward for all second graders.
And was today the trip to the zoo? Speaking
Today
of
was kindergarten. Yep. So kindergartners went to the zoo today and yesterday. They had a wonderful time.
It went well?
It did. Yep.
Okay. And then one more question. So you said that the pre-K is going to start foundations, and maybe Chrissy can answer this if you can. You said that they're doing this as like a survey thing or informational. Is this going to cost more money to have pre-K added in?
It is not. So I I met the research director, the VP, when I was at a conference earlier this year in Washington, D.C. We started talking about our district and how we use foundations. And so, no, she provided all of the materials free of cost for us. And so we're partnering with them and have received all of the pre-K kits for free, which is great. And they will be coming in to work with us over the course of this school year to do some surveys, some site visits, and some interviews with our teachers. But there is no additional cost for us to participate in this program.
That's wonderful. Okay,
Yep.
thank you very much. That was
You're
a nice presentation. Thank you.
If I may just add on to that, I just really do want to give Sam a lot of credit for networking and creating that partnership, because not only is it bringing in pre-K, but it's also bringing in, as a result, with now this partnership, a intervention for grades 4 through 8 for next year called Just Words. So that also is wonderful. And Sam really was the founding partner in that. So that's another reason why it's so good to have these opportunities to network with other people, because these great things can happen. And in their research, they're even training half the teachers in person, half the teachers virtually. That's going to be a comparison. They're also going to provide us with so much data that we're going to be able to look at and really analyze. So we're super excited about this, and just a huge thanks to Sam for creating that partnership for us.
Thank you.
Lauren?
I have a question. Hi, Mr. Cedarbaum.
Hello.
So my question is on the photography. I love that idea. Is the plan for the photos to be replaced every year, or is it like a permanent photography display?
I think it could be every couple of years. Again, we have our students for 3, potentially 4 or 5 years if they start with us in preschool as a 3-year-old. But I would love to see them rotated throughout the years, and whether it's done via canvases or framed behind glass, but I would love to see them rotate, because again, I want our current students to literally see themselves as they're walking through the hallways. We have amazing digital displays in the building now also. So we've talked about putting pictures on a loop, like a slideshow, virtual slideshow as they're walking through the building. So just as much of that we can get in as many different capacities would be amazing.
Okay, do any other committee member questions? Okay, I have one question. So the second goal is a continuation of last year, which obviously social emotional learning is an ongoing long-term need. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, I see the evidence of effectiveness, right? So you have screening results and you're measuring those, but I'm just curious, is there something from a kind of a high level standpoint that you're looking for, say, in terms of trends or benchmarks that let you know over time, this is, we're getting closer to meeting our target using this approach in programming, or wow, this isn't really making a difference, or it's not moving as quickly as we wanted to, so we're going to go back and look. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the big things that we look at always are like office referrals and how often we're seeing students for discipline or unexpected behaviors. So we track those, and we have seen a decrease in that. The other thing that we've been tracking all year is the amount of Cub Cash or shout outs that have been given out. So again, you hope to see a huge spike in the beginning of the year when you're trying to see students getting to buy into the program. And then over the course of the year, as you see a decrease in the amount of Cub Cash given, you hope to see a maintenance or even an increase in improved behavior, because you're not having to incentivize them as much for that behavior. It becomes second nature and just part of what they do. And I can say that we have seen that as well. So while we've seen the Cub Cash rate go down, we're seeing that maintenance level behavior. Again, I would say May is kind of tricky because now it's May and June and students know that summer is coming. And so you see that little bit of spike in behavior around this time of year with all grade levels. But for the whole, we have seen an increase in expected behaviors through the implementation of this. The refinement that we want to look at next year is, this was the first year we've used this system with anybody. But now as we move into year 2, where first and second graders know the Cub code, know the expected behaviors, how can we tweak the program and the expectations for them? Whereas our brand new kindergartners coming in who haven't been Tiger Cubs yet, those are the students now that we have to look at going back to those preliminary steps of spikes in Cub Cash and bringing that whole program back to the beginning. So it's almost running those two different tiers of support at the same time, because our older students now are role models and know what's expected and need just a minor review versus our brand new student who need it from the ground up with that all of that language, all of that development to bring that program to fruition throughout the course of the year.
Great. And so a related question to that, and I think that Mr. Getchell's presentation touches a little bit on this, that they're looking for a kind of a continuum of approaches and analysis from pre-K to grade 5, or actually PK to 8. So with your office referrals and the data that you're able to collect, are you taking a look at sort of demographically who's getting those referrals? And I'm thinking particularly special education students, or looking at, looking for, perhaps bias and how behavior is interpreted. So can you talk a little bit about that too?
Yeah, so again, with our We All Belong theme and our diversity, equity, inclusion, our partnership with RMK, our culturally responsive teaching methods, we're always looking at subgroups and making sure that what we're doing is equitable for all students. So again, when we track stuff, we look at who's receiving the office referrals or what behavior is being demonstrated and by who, so that we can help tweak, again, our instruction and our support to make sure that if it's a subgroup or a marginalized group, that we're providing the right support to those groups of students for them to have increased success. So that is something that we're tracking and making sure that we are aware of and being inclusive of all when we're making decisions around PBIS.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, all right, so anything else before we vote on, or do we want to vote separately or together? Vote one at a time?
Separately, please.
Okay, all right, great. So I will make a motion then to vote to approve the Blanche James Elementary School Improvement Plan. Can I get a second?
Wiseman, second.
And roll call vote?
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mr. Cedarbaum.
Thank you, everyone.
Great job.
And next up, Mr. Getchell.
Hi, everybody. Love this theme, Sam. We all belong. That's brilliant. I'm glad that Sam went first, because I think one thing that really excites me in this work that we do is synergy and thinking of things from a student perspective. And I'm just thinking of a student that is going from kindergarten through first or second, then making that jump to third, fourth, and fifth. We are trying to make things as smooth and as possible for our students, and thinking always through the student perspective. And so to hear Sam talk about things like Cub Cash, and then they come to our own and get Proud Paws, and even the way we're measuring social emotional growth with DESA is the same. Wit and Wisdom program is the same. So much of what you're going to hear from me is a lot builds on what Sam just said. And I think that's what we should be doing, because we should be thinking always through the student's perspective and making their journey through Easton Public Schools as smooth as possible in terms of expectation and procedures. And now that we have Blanche James as our neighbors, similar size school, it's certainly the transition from, second grade to third is going to be, I think, much smoother for our kids moving forward. And it's awesome to work with Sam and his staff on all of these ways that we do school for kids. So I'll apologize in advance sort of for a lot of repetition here, but I think that's what we should be striving for. All right, so I'll try to be quick and move through this. Grow Proud Strong. This is now our brand at RO. Been all year, we've done a lot of work with this. That is up all over our school thanks to the OA Art Department, Kristen Shea and all her friends. So they've done a great job with us. It's always fun to add color to your walls, just like Sam was saying. The art department at OA is a great resource. These are our wonderful school council members. So we have a very balanced team this year. We have a third grade teacher, fourth and fifth grade teacher. So thanks to Amy Cormier, Rita Pastore, and Krista Maffeo. you've got me on there, and then you've got a community representative, Monica Lawson, who does a lot of work around town and a lot of work. She's a photographer also, by the way, and on our green team. And we have 4 parent representatives. So we have like 4 staff, 4 parents, and 1 community representative. Lauren Loomis, you may have heard of her. She was great. She's going to abstain from this, but she was on our school council. It's great to get to know her and her son at RO this year. And Joanna Silverman, Meredith Lamb, and Jennifer Gilbert also was on our school council. Thank you to all of them. All right, Chrissy. All right, so our first goal, similar to Sam, we have a big literacy goal for next year. We are very excited about this new K-6 literacy program. Again, trying to provide our kids with consistent instruction that follows a research-based pattern through K-6, always in the best interest of our kids year to year. So our goal is to increase literacy achievement scores across 3, 4, and 5 by the year 2024, 2025. We want to see 70% of our students meeting end-of-year standards as readers and writers as measured through MCAS. I am using MCAS as a measure here because all the kids take it across the state. We're able to calculate growth. It's a measurement of our standards that we teach our kids all year long. So our goal is to get 70% of our kids, it's a lofty goal, in the meeting or exceeding category in ELA in 2 years. Keep clicking, Chrissy. I got this on animation. There you go. So I'm going to go quick. So get that. Going to go quick. Okay. Professional development in science of reading. Huge shift in the way we're teaching reading based on research. Moving forward, really providing all kids with access to grade level text. Really building in more content-based reading. Kids are super motivated by nonfiction and the real stuff. We tend in elementary education in the past to really heavily focus on fiction. We all read our kids fiction when they were little, right, at bedtime. But nonfiction, content-based, building background knowledge, building vocabulary really drives motivation in reading and really also drives achievement in reading. So that's a big shift moving forward with this new program. Huge advocate of peer observation. One of the great parts of our pilot this year was we had these teachers piloting these programs all year long, and they were able to watch each other teach and collaborate, really K-6, met throughout the year with Chrissy, but we want to continue to emphasize the growth that happens when teachers watch each other teach and just in a non-evaluative way, just be in classrooms working with each other. And we want to increase the amount of data meetings we have to evaluate student progress as the year goes on. So having 3 grade level data meetings in the fall, one in the fall, one in the winter, one in the spring, and then progress monitoring meetings between those meetings where we look individually at kids' progress as they move through the year. We're trying to be better at RO at if we've noticed a gap in a student's achievement and we've put an intervention in place, or if a student is on an IEP and has measurable goals in the IEP, or any student, we got to be able to measure the effectiveness of interventions. And if interventions aren't working and showing adequate growth after 12 weeks, we've got to be able to change the intervention and not just wait until the end of the year or wait to the next assessment period. So the progress monitoring piece in literacy and math is a huge focus here. All right, on we go. A little bit of data to put this in perspective. This data was striking. I was curious to see what the data was going to be like after COVID, knowing that these kids that took this MCAS exam in 2022, this was last spring, these were the kids that just got out of almost 2 years of interrupted school during very formative years, 1st and 2nd grade, where kids learn to read. So we knew that the data coming out with this particular population, these would be different. So this is what is really driving the goal of the 70%, because right now, if you look at pre-pandemic and post-pandemic ELA scores, grades 3 through 5, you can see that last spring in 3rd grade, 41% of the kids did not meet standards, 52% in 4th grade, and 48% in 5th are either partially meeting or not meeting, mostly partially meeting. That's really high and not too surprising given what they went through. But I really want to focus on that as our measure. So keep going, Christine. Another thing that really stood out when I looked at the data from last spring, our first full year back at school, was the difference in ELA scores between boys and girls. This was third grade ELA last spring, and you can see that only 46% of our third grade boys met or exceeded ELA standards versus 71% of females. So a 25% difference. I don't want to go into the ifs and the or whys, but it seems based on our data that boys took a bigger hit in terms of reading growth than girls during the pandemic. And then I looked at fourth grade, same test. Only 38% of our boys met standards compared to 59% of our girls. So it's a significant difference between boys and girls ELA. It narrows down a bit in fifth, but is something that certainly we'll focus on moving forward. Okay, go ahead, Chrissy. So that's our first goal, reading growth, wit and wisdom. A lot of what Sam had said we're doing here as well. So like Blanche Ames, our second goal focuses around social emotional learning because that is an enormous need and focus at RO. So we're focusing on what we call tier 1 level social emotional learning. Tier 1 is what all kids get. And think of social emotional learning, any learning as like a triangle. Like tier 1 is like the bottom bulk of the triangle, like what most kids get, what all kids get every day. So we want to focus on that. And by doing so, we should see a decrease in number of students seeking tier 2 level support for SEL. So keep going, Chrissy. All right, click it again. So action steps, how are we going to do this? How are we going to reach all kids, right? Family outreach is a huge piece of this. We develop an SEL newsletter specific on SEL, developed by our school adjustment counselor, school psychologist, our SEL team, that goes out to parents once a month, separate than like the school news, all about strategies, ideas, and the school context for support. So, you know, kids in 5th grade, should they have a cell phone? How do I manage social media? All these questions that parents have. My kid's anxious to come to school. They don't want to come to school. My kid has really a hard time focusing. How do I help at home? So giving parents those strategies monthly is a goal for ours next year. Next, Chrissy. I want to have myself open for questions. So having coffee with me, specifically focus on SEL concerns from parents, where they can come in, drop in at certain times throughout the year and just ask questions, you know, that they might want to ask over the phone or through an email, or maybe not even want to ask their child's teacher. So that's something else. Like Sam said, second step program is our tier 1 SEL program for all kids as they move through our 2 schools. So that continues at RO2, and that's the expectation. Every classroom, 30 to 40 minutes per week, a lesson on social emotional learning that all kids get with strategies. Keep going, Christine. A new RO constitution. I got our current one behind me. That's all over RO. These are our common agreements. You heard Sam talk about positive behavioral systems. This is the cornerstone of our system at RO. As our kids go through our building, you know, on our buses, at specials, at lunch, as they traverse through RO, the expectations have to be the same. They have to be crystal clear. Kids can't get different sets of expectations and different rules as they go from class to class and place to place and during the school day. It's got to be crystal clear, and that's what the Constitution does. And we're going to develop a new one with the students in the fall and reinforce those expectations. Sam had talked about community meetings again at Blanche James. Great idea. We do community meetings here once a month where we really teach and focus on our expectations. So that's another commonality that goes with our kids K through 5. Outdoor learning spaces, we heard earlier today about this exciting, very exciting project behind RO, where we're completely, hopefully, revamping our outdoor space. Outdoor learning is a big part of that. particularly on the north playground, the space between Easton Middle School and RO, where we like it quieter because it abuts classrooms, and especially the middle school. We want to create outdoor learning spaces there where kids can just take a break out of their classroom, breathe some fresh air, and learn outside. Even read outside, write outside, think outside, talk outside. Everything you do in a classroom, you're not in an outdoor classroom. So it's just providing those spaces definitely helps social emotional learning in kids and adults. All right, next. We talked about positive behavioral systems, like that's what works. Punishing, consequences don't turn behavior around. And we're all seeing behavior in kids. If we want to turn behavior around, we've got to take mistakes as learning opportunities, and we've got to positively reinforce what we expect and model what we expect, and not just simply punish. Consequences do play a huge role. We do that, but you can't just do that. You have to double down on positive reinforcement. Otherwise, you're just providing negative reinforcement, and the more negative attention you give, the more negative attention kids seek. So this is a really big piece, and it's very synchronous with what BA is doing. And then just really defining we have 2 school adjustment counselors at RO, similar to Blanche Ames, and 1 school psychologist, really defining to staff, to parents, to our school, what they do, and what they don't do. And, sometimes people think a school adjustment counselor can do therapy on kids during the day, and if you've ever gone to therapy yourself or had kids go to therapy, it's hard to pull a 9-year-old out of math class and give them therapy and then put them back into ELA class. I mean, it doesn't work that way. But school adjustment counselors do provide a valuable service in terms of building friendships, helping kids facilitate friendships, learning how to play with one another. And I think we do need to do a better job with, just defining what they do. It's not therapy in school. That's a work in progress, and that's one of our action steps. So move forward, Christy, to our 3rd goal.
Sorry, it's frozen on me.
Okay, that's all right. Our 3rd goal is
oh, there we go.
Right. This is just some big data to back up what we're doing in goal 2. So, Chris, you can just click through the bullet points. I'll hit on them quickly. Just data to support a robust tier level 1 level support. So we have 767 students in our school as of now. We have 85 students on an IEP or a 504 plan with direct service listed of the school adjustment counselor. I bring this up because when a student sees a school adjustment counselor for skills-based work, that's a tier 2 level intervention, right? So we're really doing a lot of tier 2 level interventions with kids. There's 127 additional students that have seen the school adjustment counselor without an IEP or 504. So we've got almost 300 students accessing tier 2 level SEL supports. My thinking is that if we beef up our tier 1 level supports, then we should see less kids accessing tier 2 level supports. So that's why our goal is so focused on tier 1, because I think we're flooding tiers 2 and 3. We're not doing a good enough job on tier 1 for tiers 2 and 3. So we measure our students' skills in social emotional growth like Sam does with the Decimini assessment. We had 88 students classified in the need category in our last administration. So it's 11% of our kids were classified as in the need category. So as Sam said, talked about Cub Cash, we have Proud Paws, same concept. We also have Citizens of the Month that kids actually vote for their peers that show our agreements. This is not staff driven, this is kid driven. Our kids get lanyards and they get Citizens of the Month pins, and we have certificates. We have ceremonies every month. Keep going, Chrissy. That's another example. These are our Proud Paws that hang outside of all of our classrooms. Green ones are individual. Purple ones are team, like classroom Proud Paws. Our constitutional agreements, we only have 4 of them, are written in the paw. So there's a constant visual of what we're expecting. These get signed. We have Proud Paw raffles every month where we give all kinds of prizes. Kids love that. keep going. This is the example of our Constitution this year. That's all over the place. Next year, we're making a new one with kids, so written in kid language. Keep going, Chrissy. All right, and this is our beautiful playground currently that our kids play on. We're looking to beef this up considerably next year. So take a good look at this. Hopefully in a couple of years, I'll be able to show you a very different picture of the same space. Yeah, there's our, this is our north playground. That will be the second one. All right, so goal 3 is all about that synergy, right? Going from K through 12, really, and giving our kids a very similar, gradual, logical progression through Easton Public Schools. And this is also ties into equity because, if we're going to have an equitable school system, we've got to have equitable policies and procedures that apply to all kids and not making, sort of judgments on things without a clear set of guidelines and procedures. And that can come with our student parent handbook. And this is one of our goals at our school next year. I know the middle school presented their handbook to the school committee earlier this year. I know a lot of work went into that. I talked to Luke Carroll about that. So we're going to follow suit and at RO, and I'm going to be working with Sam on this as well. So we hope to, through our procedures and policies, develop a student family handbook in pre-K to 2 and then the 3 to 5, the middle school one, and have our procedures and policies of things like discipline, homework, dress code, absences, tardies, all the ways we do school. It should be synchronous and it should follow a logical progression as kids move through the path of Easton Public Schools. So that will be, that is our third goal, is to develop that handbook. And I hope to present it to you next year, midway through the year. So just alignment and policy expectation and procedures as they, journey through these 4 amazing schools in our district. All right. So those are our 3 goals. Again, very, very similar to what you heard from Mr. Cedarbaum. Happy to take any questions that you might have. And by the way, I noticed that was only 15 minutes. I think that might be my record.
Okay, Jackie?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gatchell. I appreciate you providing us that ELA MCAS data because I had been hearing that the literacy achievement has declined, not just during COVID, but kids haven't made it up like we thought they would right after COVID. And I think the data you provided was really stark. It really showed that. So I appreciate the focus on that. I also appreciate you instituting progress monitoring more than once a year. I think that's going to be very important, especially for kids on IEPs, because I know things can kind of fall through the cracks sometimes. And so I appreciate that that's going to change. I really like the newsletter for parents because I know we are always looking for ways to help our kids. And I think especially with school avoidance, that's kind of happening a lot now. Parents don't really know how to handle this. I didn't know how to handle this. I get a lot of questions from parents on how to handle this. So I think that's going to be really helpful. So thank you for doing that. The only really question I had was, so you have 2 adjustment counselors. Is one of the adjustment counselors tied just to the TLC program, or are they both available for all students?
Well, that's one thing we're going to look at. I mean, the past couple of years, it has been, because the evolution of this was, we had a TLC program, middle school in our school. We shared a school adjustment counselor in the outset. That proved to be extremely difficult because that person was going back and forth to 2 very different schools, dealing with 2 very different age groups. And it was just never in the right place. I mean, it was possible. So we, luckily, through the budgeting process that we go through with Dr. Cabral, we were able to add a school adjustment counselor just for the TLC program. It is a therapeutic program. Mm-hmm. Therapy is like the big T, right? And that's what the school adjustment counselor provides, the therapy, the therapeutic approach that these kids in the program need. So yes, that school adjustment counselor has been focused primarily on the TLC program. We're looking next year to expand that role to several programs. We also have a life skills program, foundations program, a language-based program. But we're going to be working with our partners at Blanche Ames and the middle school to create, similar roles. She doesn't just work with TLC students. She's part of our SEL team. We have SEL student intervention team meetings where the whole SEL team meets. The SEL team meets by themselves all the time. They are also our crisis team when we have students or families in crisis. So all these years, she has been part of all those teams. So she's very much involved in the whole school. But in terms of student services on a day-to-day basis, we're looking to divide that up differently next year.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Nancy?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Getchell, and appreciate your presentation. Very good. It is kind of staggering that 70% by 2025 is like, ooh.
Yeah, big.
Wow. I thought that
I tell the teachers when they set goals, we always got to aim high. I mean, I'd rather aim high and come up short than aim low, and
Well, I know I've been out of the game too long. I just feel like, oh my gosh, it should be much higher. But that's good. Go ahead, go for it.
Yeah, that would be a big jump if we hit that.
Yeah. Outdoor learning spaces. Now the kids, grades 3, 4, and 5, still go to sheep pasture, correct?
Yes.
How many? What time? Where they go twice a year?
Yeah, they go there once, and sheep pasture comes here once.
So do they, like when we were in the midst of COVID, did they use the town forest or whatever?
Yes, we used the Clifford grant behind our.
Yeah. Okay. Citizens of the Month. You said the kids vote each other. It's not a. Do they really do a good job picking the Citizen of the Month?
They do, because we have we created a ballot where they can't just name the name. They have to give specific examples of what the student did and how it aligns to one of our agreements on our Constitution. And you can only win once. So, yeah, I mean, that's like one of the coolest parts of the month here, because the kids really are way more perceptive than we ever think they are. And they even notice kids that have maybe developed a reputation for getting in trouble and not always the best listeners. Like, we've had kids that have been named Citizen of the Month that you wouldn't have ever thought they would be there 3 months ago, because the kids noticing that they're trying and that they're getting better. So it's been a really great process, and we've had some really great surprises, and all kinds of kids have won this. We're fully inclusive school system. We've had students in our skills and foundations program be voted by peers because they're in the classroom a lot for Citizen of the Month. So it's really it's been an awesome thing, the shift to the students voting. But they can't just write a name; they have to give examples.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Now, can you just tell, because I don't remember, how many grade 3, 4, and 5 classrooms do you have right now?
We're 11s across the board. 11, 3rd, 11, 4th, 11.
Okay. I mean, my whole big thing, especially with SEL, is to make the class sizes smaller. Are there enough like if somehow we hit the lottery and had enough money, would it be, is there an extra classroom for each grade that if we could go to 12, it would work?
You mean in terms of space?
Yes.
Yes. We
Okay.
do have classrooms that we could convert. We use all of our spaces for intervention groups, and
Right.
we have a lot of spaces that we utilize. We try to use a lot, but we could make that work. Yes, but yes. I mean, Alicia can speak more to the trends and population, but I can tell you that the classes coming up, looking at the data from Blanche Ames, are lower than we've seen.
Okay.
Next year, our 3rd grade class size is 20 and 21, which is with 11, which is the lowest we've seen in 3rd grade since I've been here.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at the 1st and kindergarten, I know we expect there to be a bubble in K and pre-K because of this beautiful new school, and we're expecting a lot more people to move here for that. But over the next couple of years, Nancy, to answer your question, our class sizes don't look to be like they're increasing.
Okay, that's good to know. Just because I think in terms of social emotional that, if a teacher can work with less kids, do more with less kids, it would be better for everybody. But that's great. Thank you. Good to know. And I think that's all I have for questions. Thank you.
All right.
Any other questions or comments, Lauren? I know you worked on the plan as part of the school council.
So I actually do have a question that is not clear to me. Can you further explain the tier 1 and tier 2, please?
I can. So, tier 1 is basically what all kids get. So if I'm talking about tier 1 reading, this is the reading instruction that all kids get, no matter who they are, right? Tier 1 math is math instruction. So tier 1 SEL is the same. It's the social emotional learning instruction we give to all kids. So that would include like the second step lesson once a week. It would include community meetings. It would include proud pause, how we do discipline, how we, all the things that apply to all kids. And if we're doing a really good job teaching all of our kids, giving them skills and examples of modeling on how to handle certain situations, how to handle anxiety, how to handle being organized, or how to handle when you're getting distracted and how to maintain focus. If we're teaching those kinds of skills or interpersonal skills on the playground, how to play with other kids, how to take turns, if we're doing a good job teaching those skills, not just assuming kids know them, but teaching them and modeling them, then we should see less kids needing a tier 2 level of support, which is a more intensive support that might include like a tier 2 intervention would be like a social emotional group with a school adjustment counselor once a week for lunch. So not all kids are getting that, but some kids are getting that. Some kids that are showing through our data that they need more than just tier 1. So in a tier 3 level intervention is even more intense. So that would be instead of like maybe a group of 5 or 6 kids, 1 or 2, and you're really focusing on one particular skill that student is deficient in. So you should have tier 1 is what all kids get. Tier 2 is like what some kids need based on they're just not quite getting the tier 1 piece yet. And tier 3 is more intense, if that makes sense.
And just to take sort of a balcony view, that was a great specific description. Just to take a balcony view, typically we expect that all students who receive tier 1, of that, 80% of the students will have those skills addressed with tier 1. 15% of the students will need tier 2, which is, we consider it an extra dose. So we have the examples that Mr. Getchell just explained. They don't get tier 2 instead of tier 1. They
Right.
get it in addition to.
Right.
So they still get what's presented in the regular classroom, but 15% of them typically will get tier 1 and an extra dose at another time during the day. And then 5% of students typically would then not respond to tier 1 and the extra dose of tier 2, but need a third dose with a specialized provider. And so when we talk about tiers, we're really talking about these extra doses of more specific and specialized backfilling of skills, whether they're social emotional, whether they're academic, reading skills, for example.
Yeah, that's a great clarification. Thank you, Lisa. Just to put that in a different context, like if a student was behind in reading, you wouldn't take that student out of their reading block time. You wouldn't take them out of their tier 1 reading to give them other reading. You need to give them more, like frequency matters. So those students would get a tier 1 reading block plus an additional dose of tier 2 intervention, not instead of. So tier 2 and 3 are not replacements, they're additions.
So for the student who has tier 2 services spelled out in an IEP or 504, currently, are they not necessarily getting the services as fully as they should, because a lot of the school adjustment counselors' attention is going to kids who also need it, but because it's not, you know, the tier 1 isn't as beefed up as you want it yet.
Yeah. I think, I mean, a school adjustment counselor might, can be used as a tier 1. I mean, school adjustment counselor could come into a classroom and do a lesson to a whole class, right? That would be tier 1 intervention. But so can teachers. Sam talked about morning meeting, for example, right? And we do that too here. Starting every day with a morning meeting, which might include a second step lesson, is a way to bring the whole class together, preview the day, check in with kids, see, just recognize them. It's just simple things. It doesn't take a lot of time. Morning meetings, and then school adjustment counselor is not involved at all in that.
Right. Tier 1 is almost always provided by the classroom teacher. And it's expected that the classroom teacher provides that tier. So the service providers actually don't come in until tier 2 or tier 3. So it really is not a reflection on that. However, what we want to make sure of, and that Mr. Getchell alluded to, is that all of our classroom teachers have the access to the tools that help them provide the tier 1 instruction that is effective. There are just some students that it's not it's not that the teacher's not providing it appropriately, which is not what you said, but I just want to clarify that. It's just that some students are developmentally different. They understand things in different forms or different ways of presenting, different modalities. And sometimes they just need an extra dose to get caught up on a particular skill before they move on to another skill.
Right, and I think COVID has also played a part too.
Definitely has exacerbated this, for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
That's great clarifying questions, though, so I appreciate you asking them.
Okay. Lauren, did you have anything else? All right, so I have a few kind of disparate questions, but and the first one might be something that Dr. Cabral might need to jump in on. So I'm curious about the newsletter to families with wellness strategies and research. I love that idea. With our current technology, do you have any way to track engagement, to track how many people are clicking through to an article, which articles are piquing interest?
Yes.
Okay.
So honestly, this won't be a big lift for us because our SEL team did do a newsletter all year for our staff. That was fabulous. And it was given by our staff. So they're doing this. We just got to we got to get this out to parents because they need this just as much as our staff do, if not more. So it's something we've done. I use S'mores. I know Sam does too. I think a lot of us do. And that is a software that does give me data on how many people. So every time I send out my weekly newsletter, I can see how many people have opened it, how many attachments they've opened. It does collect data on all of that. So Sam, you use S'mores as well.
I do everything through School Messenger, so I've investigated some more. I may change over to that in the future.
Okay.
We're also going to have a new website that is going to have links to pages that people can refer to regularly. What we're seeing, and I know you've heard me say this before, is that we've always had social emotional supports for students. What happens in their life affects their school performance, and what happens at school has an effect on their life. But what we're seeing is, and it's not just COVID, it's also, a lot of things that are happening in our world today and things that children are having to deal with. Certainly social media is among them. And what we're finding is that there just aren't enough service providers outside of school who are able to provide counseling or services to students and or families. And so what other recourse does a family have really? Who else can they turn to? And what they're doing is turning to the school for things like counseling services or placements for kids. And we just haven't had that level of service providers before. And so that is why we are increasing our staffing in those areas. But we also want to make sure that a big part of the work we do with kids is parent education. Because if they're utilizing strategies at school that are helpful, beneficial to them, it makes perfect sense to help train the teachers in the verbiage, in the strategies, in the resources, in the things that they can replicate at home that seems to be working in school. So these things are very effective. They just require a lot of communication between home and school and a lot of effort in getting that information out to parents. And all of that translates into people. And that's why we say we don't necessarily need things in our district. It's that we need people. As the level of need increases, you meet that level of need with people, with service providers, with people that can train parents and help them navigate even the mental health systems outside of school, because there just aren't those providers like there used to be. And so it's an emerging area that schools are taking on more responsibility. And so that's why we're seeing more of these providers than ever before in our districts. Certainly not unique to Easton.
Thank you. I think it'd be, and again, as we move towards, the new web platform, if some of this content were available there or categorized or tagged, I think it'd be really neat to be able to see what is piquing people's interest. And then that way that could help inform, maybe there's a topic like school avoidance that is emergent where we schedule a speaker to come in, or, maybe use the CPAC or one of the school PACs to help fund, an evening session or something for parents. So I think I love the idea of making those resources available, and then would love if we could then kind of analyze through usage what's really on people's minds. That'd be really interesting.
And having a repository of tools that we can add to and tweak over time, it will just get better and better as it's used.
Absolutely. And then, Mr. Getchell, I have, first of all, I think I commented last year on how ambitious your plans always are. And so when I saw the 70% for reading, I was like, you know what, if somebody can do it, it's Mr. Getchell. So I love your big goals. And I was looking through the update on last year's goals, and the vast majority of them are complete, which is amazing, because you definitely bit off a huge list of tasks and goals for last year. So I wanted to know if you could just give us an update on some of the items that are a work in progress from last year. So I think two of them were related to the same area, which was the office referral form and some analytics around that and usage. And then if you could also just take a minute to talk a little bit about the multi-language learner family potluck dinner. That was really interesting, and I'd love for anybody watching this to have the opportunity to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I'll start with the potluck because, Sam talked about We All Belong. We've been really trying to find ways to reach parents and families that we don't often hear from, right? And we decided to target our EL population for obvious reasons, language barriers, new to the country, new to the system. They don't always know how to, or what's expected in school. Often parents went to school in a very different place, different expectations, different cultures. So, we realized that, emailing them and using our traditional methods of communicating with parents just wasn't working. We weren't connecting. So we worked with our new EL teacher and EL department and me. We phone called. We called these people and sent paper flyers home in their language. And we just had a potluck dinner, and everybody brought a dish from their family. And we had it in our school. We had over 60 families come with kids. I had it was just super casual, really just warm and welcoming. We had translators there as well. And our EL teacher was able to explain to them what she does and how she supports their kids when they're here. In how we balance the inclusion part with the special services part. We gave them a tour of the school. We answered questions. and we started a mentor family program. So whereas people that wanted to sign up to be a mentor family, if they were from Brazil, for example, the next time we had a family registered from Brazil, we could connect them with that family so they'd have someone to talk to with kids in the school that speak their language. So we were starting that. So the potluck dinner was a huge success, and we definitely going to continue that. And it was a lesson learned about communication with some of our multilingual families. Like you have to sometimes do things a little differently, and phone calls and paper sometimes work better than emails and websites. So that was that. And then the office referral form is a work in progress, and we have one. We developed it. It's lovely, but logistically, I'll just be honest. Like when a student makes a mistake, the teacher is there, right? And the teacher's first natural instinct is not to fill out a form, but it's to sit and talk to the kid and work with the kids. And they're also trying to teach their class all day and do a million things. And so am I. Like I'm the same way. And so is Mr. Aries. Like our instinct when a problem happens, we're not like rushing to the document and filling out the paperwork. We're like rushing to the kids and sitting them down and teaching them, like, let's rewind the tape. What could we have done differently? That's so important with young kids. That teaching part, that like restorative part. And I'm not making excuses. I mean, I should, after all of that, come back and fill out the form and put it in. And we're doing that, but not as frequently as we would like to, because as soon as we finish with that situation,
something else comes out. Yep.
But that is certainly a work in progress, and I definitely look forward to working with Sam. I know we have that same goal. We're definitely interested in tracking data on which kids are sent, which kids are getting in trouble. That's really information that we want to have. And again, I'd love to develop something that's similar in both schools and how we do that. But
okay,
that's why that's a work in progress.
Great. Well, thank you for the updates on those, and an amazing job on the potluck. I think it's something that we've certainly, anybody who's been in this district for years has recognized that gap in being able to connect with our multilingual families.
I've always believed in the power of food too. I'm like, with food, I'm there. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think, I definitely think you're onto something, and would love to see this outreach be replicated throughout the other schools in ways that are appropriate. But it sounds like you've really, really put a lot of thought and effort and found something effective, again, beyond the normal channels of communication, which, as we all know, just aren't necessarily reaching everybody. So just kudos to you for that. Thank you. Okay. Anything else for Mr. Getchell? Okay. Will somebody like to make a motion to approve the school improvement plan for Richardson Olmsted School?
Wasn't so moved.
And a second?
DeLuca, second.
And roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, abstain.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Next up, vote to eliminate assignment of students to schools, policy file JCA. Dr. Cabral?
The committee at the last meeting decided that policy JCA, or assignment of students to schools, was not needed based on some updates to another policy that you're going to discuss. This is considered a second reading, and that policy JF, school admissions, seems to cover what is needed in the two policies. JFE3, enrollment of students based on residency, and JF, school admissions, covers what's needed. And so since this is considered a second reading, you can eliminate policy JCA at this time if you choose.
Okay. Do any committee members have any questions or comments? Especially our policy subcommittee. Any feedback?
Yeah, we've been very active.
No, I think it's okay because some of the stuff that's in JCA is, like Dr. Cabral just said, is covered in both the other policies. So, and a lot of it is discretional to the superintendent, which a lot of it is in JCA. So if it's covered in the other two, we might as well get rid of it. Get rid of one of them.
And I think JCA was really written for when we had 3 different elementary
Right.
schools and
Yeah,
when we had
exactly.
Richardson and Olmsted were separate schools and all that.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's really not
Outdated.
relevant, given that we all funnel to the same place. Okay. Alrighty then. So I make a motion to eliminate the policy JCA assignment of students to schools.
Wiseman second.
And roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and then now the vote to approve enrollment of students based on residence, file JF-E-3, third reading.
Exactly. So the suggested changes were made at the last committee meetings. And the committee chose to table the vote on this at the last meeting. This would be considered the third reading, and you could vote on this policy this evening if you were so inclined.
Okay, do any committee members have any questions or comments?
No, I think all the changes were incorporated.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion then to approve the revised policy JF-E-3, enrollment of students based on residence?
So moved, DeLuca.
And the second,
Second, Wiseman.
roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Okay, great. And let's see. Next up, discussion of school admissions policy, JF, first reading. Dr. Cabral.
So this is school admissions policy JF. Because it's a first reading, you won't have a vote this evening, as you need a minimum of 2 readings to vote on a school committee policy, but certainly this is open for discussion or questions.
And were there any were there any recommended changes to this, or are we reviewing it because we're reviewing the others? Go ahead, Jackie.
I have just a question about this. The birth certificate or equivalent proof of age that used to go to the principal, but is it all being streamlined in central office now?
It is. Now that we are on campus and we have clerical aides in the office, we are moving central registration here. We've actually had several meetings in the district with all of the people that had done registration in the individual schools. We feel this is going to provide a much better level of service to parents, not only due to proximity, where we're right on campus, but just for consistency as well. Each of the schools used a slightly different process. And when we looked at the experience through the eyes of a parent, we realized that it wasn't as user-friendly as we want it to be, particularly for people that have multiple children moving into the district, are homeless, or speak a foreign language. And what was happening was they would have to come to central office to prove residency before they could be enrolled or registered in the schools. Well, most parents didn't know that. So their first instinct is to go directly to a school. So then they were directed to central office, which was off campus. Then they had to go back to the school. If they were going to multiple schools, they had to go to each of the schools and enroll and complete the same paperwork over again. So this just centralizes everything. They will do their residency and registration at central office. We've worked on training the staff here, cross-training the staff so that we have more than one person able to do that. And Karen Malika actually did a wonderful job organizing the new forms that are going to be used. We're actually going to provide them online so that people can fill them out prior to coming in if they would like. And everything will be uploaded electronically from the staff here and accessible to the people in all the schools. And like I said, we met with the staff at all 4 of the schools to see what processes they thought might be problematic, things that we could streamline, and I think we've got a great product now. So the long answer to that very short question is yes, all of that is going to be coming through central office now. So saying that it will be done at the school level is now outdated.
So we need to, I'm sorry, go
But
ahead.
it says school administration, so wouldn't that be the same thing as central office? Or should it say central office?
Yeah.
The
The version I have reads acceptable to the principal. Is that what you were noting, Jackie?
Yeah, that's
Nancy,
exactly.
third
Oh,
line of
okay.
the second paragraph.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
looking at the last line. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So maybe just remove principal and put Easton Public Schools. Or Jackie, would you suggest?
Acceptable to
Office of Central Administration or whatever the official name of the office is called.
To the administration. Yeah, something it would have to be central administration. It's kind of weird how it says acceptable to the, and we can play around with the language a little. The language isn't great. Okay.
I think
But yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think the language should match what the sign says on the building of right outside the office.
Mm.
So someone will look at the paperwork or, know where it need to be.
And I noticed that it says the maximal age, I'm not sure why maximal is capitalized, but is 21 years of age. So is that still aligned with like state law, et cetera? I know we sometimes have students up through 22.
It is 22.
Okay.
And
then should we put the minimum age in here as well? Or is that quoted somewhere else in policy? It's, age 5 by...
it is, sorry, I was just going to respond to the principal word first. It should be central administration.
And then maybe change it to central administration, like Nancy said in that last sentence, instead of school administration.
Oh, okay. That's what I was having trouble finding. I'm sorry. I just found it. Yes, it should be central administration.
Just capitalize administration and take out that. And then we do have, I feel like we do have a policy. I have to look back on the kindergarten enrollment. Yeah.
We do. And that states the age by what, there may even be, I believe we added an assessment for a student that wasn't of age, but could be assessed by that is done at the school level.
Yeah.
And so that's separate. That's a separate policy from this one.
So do we want to change the 21 to 22?
Yes. And school administration to central administration, please.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Seeing none. Okay. All right, so next item on the agenda is public comment, and I do not see anything in the queue for tonight. Okay, so superintendent notes. Mrs. Pruitt?
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Cabral.
congratulations, Mrs. Pruitt.
Surprise! Sorry about that. I was looking at Chrissy.
Okay,
It
so
happens all the time. I'm just kidding.
wow. So, just a couple of things. First is that we have finished up our posts for the 3 positions that we were discussing that have not been out yet. The DEIA the director position, as well as the 2 technology positions. So DEIA director, we took a little extra time on that one, not only because we haven't had that that position yet in this district, but it seemed very counterintuitive to have an inclusive position that did not have an inclusive process in terms of the job description. So we wanted to have as many lenses on that as possible. We are very thankful that we had input from our partners at Raising Multicultural Kids, also a parent in particular that works in the field that participated in our DEIA community meeting, but also the students, 2 different groups, student group and parent group of all of our AIMS who are on the DEI advisories with Mrs. Kavanaugh. With all of that input and the input of an independent consultant who is a current DEI coordinator in the state, we have finalized, specifically Mrs. Pruitt and Mrs. Medeiros, our HR director, finalized that job description today. So we expect that to go out by the end of this week. In addition, we had our final meeting with our technology team today. Just a reminder, Mr. Souza, our tech director's final day in the district is tomorrow. He has gotten a position in private industry. We're very happy for him and wish him well. We have decided that we are going to use the opportunity to just make a couple of changes to the job description. And so we are finalizing that and hope to have that go out tomorrow as well. We'll do that internally and externally. The next piece of news is not great, but we did receive news that now that the budget is in the Senate, so we get the governor's budget, goes through the House, is now going through the Senate. And Senator Timilty specifically noted several things that he had put as his priority projects at town meeting. He described priority projects that were specific to Easton. Unfortunately, what we're finding is that the state is coming in, their state projections for revenue are coming in $1.1 billion less than they anticipated. And so those priority projects, basically all of them, are kind of on the chopping block right now. However, I am encouraged that the $750,000 that has been, they used to call it earmarked, that's why I keep hesitating, has been designated as a priority project with the support of Senator Timilty. We are still hopeful that that's going to go through, and that is going to help us with the security projects that we have planned for the district for the next couple of years. And right now, that's all I have.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. The courts are going forward. So we did get the funding for the courts at all of our AIMS. We did accept a bid, and that work is going to start.
Great. Now, Assistant Superintendent notes, Mrs. Pruitt.
Thank you so much. So for the entire year, we have been undertaking making sure that all of our teachers and paraprofessionals are trained on the science of reading, which is a methodology that we are going forward with. It is definitely, as you heard tonight, a change of practice, but our pilot teachers for the new literacy program and all of our staff are excited about the challenge and the change that's coming. But I just wanted to inform you that tomorrow is our final professional development session on the science of reading for our teachers in PK through 2. So I want to give a special shout out to the 3 amazing professionals that have been leading this charge, and that's Cindy Olson, our reading specialist at Blanche James, Karen Daly, our literacy coach at Richardson Olmsted, and Jeannie Baxter, our literacy coach at the Easton Middle School. The 3 of them have taken their show on the road, and as of tomorrow, everyone will be trained on the science of reading. We're really excited and very thankful to them for doing that. As you know, we are adopting Wit and Wisdom, and our first professional development will be next week. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, grades K through 7, which I'll explain in a second, will be trained on what's called the launch. They will take place, the professional development that they're going to participate in is called Launch, which is basically just an overview of Wit and Wisdom. There will be a follow-up session in October, which is more like a lesson study, where it's after they've taught it for a little while, they get more in depth with the program. But this is kind of like an overview of the program. They'll know how to, basic strategies on how to access the program and how to utilize the program in the classrooms. Now, the reason I say grade 7 is because grade 7 met with our literacy coach, Jeannie Baxter, and they have decided to pilot Wit and Wisdom for the year next year, where they have been listening to their 6th grade colleagues. They have heard the data that they are getting. The ones that are implementing it are overwhelmingly excited about what they're seeing from their students. So grade 7 asked if they could pilot the program next year, and we've decided to do a full year pilot for grade 7. So instead of just a portion, we're going to do a full year. We were able to utilize some of the funding that the town has put aside due to a literacy grant that we received for that actually offset some of the costs in the other grade levels. So we're very excited about that. I also wanted to inform you, as was previously mentioned slightly, that we are participating in a 1 to 3 year study. It's, the time is actually going to be determined year to year with on Just Words, which is a 2-tier intervention through Wilson. Wilson is kind of the creator of Foundations, which is a program that we are implementing K through 3. It's our phonics phonemic awareness program in K to 3, alongside with Wit and Wisdom. Wilson actually and Wit and Wisdom work collaboratively together. They work together to create geodes, which is also being used in our primary grades that we are implementing. And so Just Words is a nice, it's a more in-depth intervention that our students in grades 3 through 8 4 through 8 will be implementing. We will be implementing that next year. What this entails is that the Just Words people, they come in, they do a giant assessment on all of our students. We actually can kind of determine which students would benefit from this program, and they offer this program for students that are struggling with a particular skill set. And then other students that are struggling with comprehension will actually participate in a different intervention that we already have in place. So we're very excited about that, and we're very thankful to the Wilson people and to Sam for making that connection for us, because we definitely have been able to expand that relationship. And then lastly, the Summer Enrichment Academy applications for K through 8 closed on Wednesday. But I'm leaving it open until Friday. So any last minute people that want to register, please sign up and register your child for the Summer Enrichment Academy. Just a reminder, it's for all students, except if you are receiving extended year service through your individual. If your child is receiving extended school year services through their individualized education plan, that's a separate program. So the SEA program, the C program, is at no cost to students. and also is inclusive of transportation at no cost. So we're excited about that. We do have a 9 through 12 credit recovery program that will be happening. The administration at the high school, as well as Ryan Ring and Stephanie San Pietro, who will be the coordinators for the that credit recovery. They are in the process right now of identifying students who would benefit from that. It doesn't necessarily mean that a child failed a course. It could mean that they're on the cusp of it and maybe may benefit from receiving some extra support. We're also going to be implementing a math course for our multi-language students, our English language students that might need some more support with math at the high school level. So we're very excited about all of these great opportunities for our students for continuation in the summer to really deter from that summer learning loss. That's what I have for you today. Do you have any questions? Nancy?
Yes, I do. So on this K through 7 being trained next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So like Wednesday will be K1, 2?
No, so it's actually, we had to split it up because of, it doesn't matter if different grade levels are together, it doesn't matter by grade span. We had to split it up because of subs. So it's actually K3 and 6, if I'm correct. And then Tuesday is 1, 4, and 7. And then Friday is 3 and 5.
2 and 5. 2 and 5.
2 and 5. Thank you. 2 and 5. Yes,
Okay.
I think I have that right. I might be off. I can look and, but so there will be a lot of substitutes in the buildings. We thank everyone that signs up to be substitutes because we need them right now. And yes. Okay, great. Thank you. But so, yeah, so K3 and 6 would be like Wednesday and so you got to be moving everybody around. Okay, yes. I get that. And on that 9 to 12 credit recovery, so that's like the old summer school. Are you going to allow, let's say in another town, somebody needed credits because they didn't pass in their town. Would you accept kids from another town, maybe for a tuition or something?
No, at this time, it's just offered to Easton students.
Okay, all right. And then I did have another question, but it's for Dr. Cabral. So I'll wait till it's my turn again. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Mrs. Pruitt? Right, so we will move on to school committee notes. So Nancy.
Okay, thank you. My turn again. All right, so the DIA director is a full-time position?
Correct.
Okay, and will be housed at central office or?
Correct.
Okay, but will service all of the schools?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, and all right, going to do that. And I think that was my only question for you. And comments, I heard the prom was really nice. The kids had a good time. They looked beautiful. Beautiful night, thank goodness. And I think that's it. That's it.
Okay. All right, Jackie.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. First, school planning committee had a meeting last week, and we are starting to plan the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Blanche Ames Elementary School. It'll be sometime late summer. We haven't finalized a date yet, but we're going to start planning it. So as soon as we know the date, we will let everyone know for sure, and it's going to be great. So we hope we can get a lot of community members, parents, students, everyone to come and celebrate with us. My second thing is I just wanted to thank Mrs. Pruitt for for allowing me to be on the search committee for the Director of Special Services. I haven't been on a search committee like that before, and it was really a really great experience. I think the committee that you put together kind of touched on all aspects of the school life. It was really a very diverse committee that worked very well together. And it was really a wonderful experience. So thank you. And that's it.
Okay. Lauren? Lauren, any comments this week?
No.
No? Okay. All right.
After the mute button.
Okay. And because Michelle is not here, I will relay some events that I know she went to and enjoyed over the past few weeks. Because first of all, thank you for everybody who showed up to town meeting. It was excellent to have a quorum and to get started right away. And thank you everybody for supporting the budget for the town and the schools. So that really appreciate that. That helps us move forward with all these great plans. So over the past few weeks, let's see, so I know there was STEAM night, which I think Michelle attended and posted about. It was looked like a really successful, fun night. Music has had a lot concert after our last meeting. And there were a lot of highlights, but one of the things I really wanted to point out and share was that this was the first year of having the inclusive music class, the adaptive music class, and 3 students from that class chose to perform at the concert. They had the option to perform or not, and did a fabulous job with one student doing percussion, one student doing some vocals during the orchestra performance, and one student conducting, and she absolutely did an amazing job. So just so glad to see that program in place and to see students from the program want to participate in one of the concerts. So it was really a great night. And then the music department had their Tempo Awards and Broadway night. I missed Broadway night because Michelle and I were at the Blanche Ames movie premiere at Borderland last Thursday. So Nancy had seen a preview of this a few years ago, pre-pandemic. They've edited the film a little bit and had some public showings last weekend at Borderland. It was really an amazing presentation, and to be able to be in a room watching the film that features that room in so many shots was kind of surreal. So a lot of history, and it was just really great. And I felt very proud that, we named a school after her because she's extraordinary. Seniors are rolling right through all of their end of year activities, and we're super excited to be celebrating with them. So they had the senior parade over the weekend, senior send off on Monday, monogram night was earlier this week. Let's see. And then in terms of sports, outdoor track has already had their Hawk championships last weekend, and both the boys and girls teams finished second overall, with several OA students or relay teams winning their events. And so they have more events coming up for state level competition. And then the rest of the teams are wrapping up their spring seasons this week. And the tournament brackets are not out yet because nothing's final, but it looks like if the MIAA power rankings hold, I think every single one of our spring teams will be participating in the postseason. So good luck to all of them. Hopefully those rankings hold. And if you on the bubble, if you close to that group of 32. So we'll see. Time will tell, but knock on wood, hopefully everybody had a great spring season regardless of the outcome. And we look forward to cheering on whoever makes it into the postseason. I think that's it. All right. So next up, get my wording right. I would like to make a motion to enter into executive session and return to open session for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to collective bargaining for Unit A stipends, SPEA, Southeastern Public Employees Association Secretarial, Clerical, Custodian, and Food Service units, and pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, subsection 22, to discuss contract negotiations for the Director of Special Services. And in my opinion, having these discussions in public would be detrimental to the bargaining position of the school committee. Can I get a second?
Wiseman, second.
Okay, and roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Right, so we will be back
Can I just add that despite the long description, I have a very small amount of information to share. So I would encourage people who are here to be patient and hang on, and we will be back to continue.
Right. Giving Lauren a minute to connect.
Lynn, Lauren's in the participants, if you can move her over. Thank you.
Okay, great. So we are all back. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. We are all here and connected. Okay, so our next item on the agenda is the discussion and vote on the Director of Special Services appointment. Dr. Cabral?
Thank you. I want to start by thanking Assistant Superintendent Pruitt for a very organized, very thorough process. We were certainly on an aggressive timeline, but wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence. And the committee was made up of various stakeholders. We believe we had every stakeholder group covered. They were extremely thoughtful. I did meet with them at their very first meeting, kind of with Chrissy set up the expectations and how this would go forward. And there was a very seriousness of purpose, and they were very bought into the process, very knowledgeable and thoughtful. And I very much appreciate the time they put into this, because it is a commitment of time. It is in the middle of the day to evening, and it did involve quite a few meetings. So a huge shout out to all of the people on the committee that helped make this, filling this very important position possible. As a result of their work, they did forward 2 finalist candidates to participate in site visits, both in their district and also at EPS. As a result of that, we had a lot of feedback from people in the district who were not on the committee, parents and staff members and service providers, administrators. I have gone through all of that information. They were able to provide written feedback. I've gone through all of that. We also had a subcommittee of the committee go to the districts, and they provided written feedback, and I went through all of that feedback as well. Finally, I had a final interview with the candidates and spent over 3 hours with the candidate that I am moving forward this evening for your consideration for appointment. That candidate, Craig Davidson, was a special educator for almost a decade in Bourne before moving to the Director of Special Services position in the Bourne Public Schools, where he served for 2 years, and then was given the opportunity to move to the Old Rochester Regional District as the Special Education Director, where he has been for 3 years. So he's been in special education now spanning 2 decades, 5 as a director position. I will say that his experience was extraordinary. I found his approach, his demeanor, the way he interacted with people both in our district and at the site visit, from the feedback that I received, was overwhelmingly positive. I had a wonderful conversation with him. We asked one another questions. It's very important to us that not only do we find someone who's a good fit for our district, we want to make sure we're a good fit for them. Mr. Davidson came into the interview extremely prepared, not only about the town of Easton, but was extremely knowledgeable about the Easton Public Schools, our special education programming, our goals, our vision, our data, and had some very interesting insights. I am, as I would think you would expect me to be, very direct and probing and very specific when we get to this level of interview for such a critical role. And at every turn, I was pleased and encouraged by all of the answers that we had. I felt as though we had a very easy conversation, that we could collaborate well with one another, that I could count on him to push back on our thinking, as is our style on the leadership team, is to push one another and constantly challenge one another's thoughts and processes to create a better product for everyone, to better serve our students, our parents, and our staff. His expectations, as they should be, are very high. He offers a tremendous amount of support to families and staff and has a desire to do so and to continue to do so. His recommendations were stellar. My colleague, his superintendent, had wonderful things to say about him as well, about his performance there. I know that they have to be tremendously disappointed to see him leaving. And I am noticing that there are some members of the committee here this evening, and I certainly want to respect their feedback and opportunity to add to this conversation if they would like to. And so if there's anyone that would like to speak, if you could either use the raise hand feature and Mrs. Souza will bring you over, or even just put your name in the chat and Mrs. Souza will bring you over. Until someone wants to do that, I will just finalize by saying that, Mrs. Skinner has faithfully and professionally served this district for many years, and it has been my great pleasure and honor to work with her. I've learned an awful lot from her, and she's going to be such a huge loss to the district. We support her in her move and wish her well, and will always do anything for her. And we know that she's very intent on making this a smooth transition. But if we have to fill her very big shoes with anyone, I feel extremely confident that Mr. Davidson is that person. And so I am making the recommendation without reservation that Mr. Davidson be considered for your approval as our next Director of Special Services. And I see that Sam Cedarbaum and Mrs. Alterman are here. And so I would first send it over to Mr. Cedarbaum to say anything he would like on this candidate.
Thank you, Dr. Cabral. I was very happy to participate in the search for our next Director of Special Services, interacting with Mr. Davidson both here during the interview process, during his visit to Easton, and to Old Rochester in his district. I can't say enough good things. He is going to be an asset to our district as a whole, to our staff, to our programs, to our community. I am excited to learn from him as a leader as well and work as a collaborative partner with him on our team. So I was over the moon to meet him and get to know him and look forward to working with him if you so approve the appointment of his position.
Thank you, Sam. Mrs. Alterman?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. So representing CPAC, the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, I want to say I am extremely excited for our town. We are very excited for more parent involvement. It's a very, I think we're very, very lucky that we have someone who is so polished, so knowledgeable. He not only knew how to answer questions, but you could tell how well he was thinking things through. He has been through so many of. He has multitudes of experience in budgets, in working with Jesse, and working on so many of these higher level issues out of district. I just feel like he is going to be such a wonderful bridge between parents, students, school, and I just feel that it's just going to open more doors. And I think it's going to create even better communication between parents, staff, and the school. So kudos to everybody on the committee, and we'll be very, very excited as CPAC to be working with him. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know that we also had representation of the school committee on the committee.
Thank you. So this was really an incredible opportunity, this whole process. I think what really stood out for me was the site visit when we went to Mr. Davidson's district, and Mr. Cedarbaum was there as well. You know, we met with, over 70 people? I mean, at 2 different schools. Teachers, paras, nurses, administrators, parents, school committee members, I mean, anyone that you could think of. And we got the same comments from everyone, that Mr. Davidson's a good communicator, that he's proactive, that he listens, that he's respectful, that he sees the big picture. We talked about his budget experience, his experience in all the different aspects of this position. He's tech savvy too, which is nice. But what really stood out for me, and Mrs. Alterman wasn't able to come, so Mrs. Schroeder came to the site visit. And Mr. Davidson had me and Marcy meet with a group of parents and school committee members. And he had, you know, he had the whole morning planned out with one group to another group to another group and little breaks in between. So Marcy and I were with the parents, and we were talking to them in our allotted time. We missed our break because we kept talking to them. We missed half of the next session because we kept talking to them. This group of parents and the school committee members that were there were also parents of children that had been on IEPs. And they were so open and honest with us. It was very emotional. And they talked about their experience with Mr. Davidson and their struggles with their children and how they were trying to help their children and what he did for them, that he was always available for them, that when they talked to him, he made them feel like their child was the only child he was focused on. He didn't have other things going on. He wanted to talk to them about their child and find the best path for their child. He would ride bikes with them. He would sit with them. He would come up with plans for their children. And if the parents had an idea of what they thought that plan should be, but he thought there was a better path, he wasn't afraid to push back and show the parents that there was a better path. These parents were just it was overwhelming. I mean, at one point, Marcy and I were saying, oh, we feel bad that we're, that we're talking about taking him away from you. They were devastated about losing him, but they were so grateful for the support that he gave them that they just wanted him to be happy. It was really an incredible experience. And I came away from that with no doubt in my mind that this man was the right person for this position, that he would be able to serve our children, serve our families, serve our district, and the huge loss that we were having from Mrs. Skinner leaving. I am very grateful that Mr. Davidson is going to be filling her shoes, because I mean, I can't even put into words how fortunate I feel that we were able to find him, and how fortunate we will be to have him work with us. And I really think this is going to be a very good fit overall. People also say he was very involved in community, would take his child in the stroller to community activities and events. And I think he's going to be a good fit for us. And I'm grateful to the other committee members. I know I'm rambling on, but I just can't stop. This was so good. When we were on site, everyone kind of picked up on different things. One of the things Mr. Cedarbaum picked up on, which I would never have thought about, was he watched the interaction as Mr. Davidson was walking down the hall. Did the teachers, did the parents, did the children know who he was? Did he have eye contact with them? Did he talk to them? What was the interaction like? I never would have thought about looking at that, but once he said that, you could really notice the connection he had with the people that worked in the school, with the children, with the parents. It's just, I'm going to stop now because I could just keep going, but I'm very, very happy about this.
Chrissy?
Mrs. Pruitt?
Sure. So if I can just add, thank you, Dr. Cabral, for allowing me to chair this committee. Melissa Medeiros, our director of HR, assisted as well. And it really was a great process. The committee, we rocked, right? I mean, we were awesome. And we had a lot of fun, but we had so much, everyone was so thoughtful, like Dr. Cabral said, and really took this seriously, as we know that this is a highly important position within our district. I had the pleasure of taking both candidates around the district. I hosted them, as I walked them through and walked them around when they were here in Easton. And to go off of what Jackie just said about that he knew people and in his district, I actually found that people were drawn to him. And so when we walked through Oliver Ames, for example, he actually got on the ground with a student that was having difficulty and was able to help that student. And he didn't know that student. We went into another room, and there were the kids that immediately were reaching out to him. One of them actually said he looked like a professional wrestler from back in the day, and showed him his picture. And Mr. Davidson immediately talked about wrestling with the student. I think that is just why he has that level of interpersonal skills that really connects with people, and people connect with him. So I'm, as Sam had said, Craig has had some of the responsibilities that I have in his district. And while I'd love to say, here you go, I'm actually really excited to learn from him as well. And major, wonderful asset to the Easton Public Schools. And I'm very lucky that he applied. I feel very lucky that he applied for this position.
Okay.
So at this time, Mr. Davidson is here, quote unquote. And so I'm going to ask Lynn to bring him over. Certainly this is the school committee's opportunity to ask him any questions. He's, of course, can make a statement if he would like, but I think probably, if you have questions, it might be a good opportunity for you to ask those now. Welcome, Mr. Davidson.
Thank you, Dr. Cabral.
Okay, committee members, does anybody have any questions? We normally do, but we just met with you a couple of weeks ago and spent quite a bit of time, having questions answered at that point. And certainly I know and trust the recommendations from everybody that we've heard from and from the committee itself. So I actually don't have any questions, but Nancy, did you want to?
You said exactly what I was going to say. When we met with him, we got to ask the questions, and I'm all set. Thank you.
Would you like to share anything with the committee, Mr. Davidson?
I would love to. I wanted to thank the interview committee for their dedication and time they spent throughout the entire process. It was great to be able to meet so many stakeholders within the community over the last month. With the visit to the Easton Public Schools, I was able to meet parents, students, the school committee, but most importantly on our tour, as Ms. Pruitt mentioned, I was able to interact with the kids. And that was probably the best part of the entire interview process. The students in the Easton Public Schools at all the buildings we went into were happy, they were safe, and they were engaged. And it was a wonderful experience. So I appreciate all the support throughout this entire process by the interview committee and by all the community stakeholder groups. And I look forward to working with all of you.
Great, thank you so much. All right. So Dr. Cabral, next steps, we move ahead.
Next steps are that I would repeat that as the superintendent, my role is to recommend to you that we hire Craig Davidson as our next director of special services, and I do so without reservation and with enthusiasm.
Great. Okay, so I will make that motion make a motion to vote to approve the appointment of Craig Davidson as our next director of special services. Can I get a second?
Wiseman, second.
And roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Great.
Congratulations.
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 Welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right. Great. So I think
So,
is that
Mr. Davidson's first day will be on July 1st. And he and I will be in communication until that time. And now if you I should have interrupted you to put in his amendment, but I didn't. But if you would just vote now to accept his contract as written, that would be good to have on record.
okay? So I move to accept the contract for Craig Davidson as written.
Wiseman,
Second, DeLuca.
And roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davidson. We will be talking soon.
Congratulations.
Okay, congrats. Have a good night.
Everyone.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay. All righty. So that brings us to the end of our evening. Our next meeting is on Thursday, June 8th. That one will begin at 6:30 p.m. And so we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. I make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second?
Wiseman, second.
And roll call vote.
DeLuca, yes.
Wiseman, yes.
Star, yes.
Loomis, yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Beach. I was gonna say, I thought Long Beach was a California place.